Okay, guys, I want to move on to the second part of this bargaining issues, Module 5, and to deal with the internal and external processes involved in the issue. Because bargaining is a little more complicated than perhaps the text sort of suggests, but it's pretty good in outlining, for example, the internal processes that both management and union have to go through. And the internal processes, it talks about how bargaining proposals are put together. And what that means is how does a union decide what things to ask for? Well, it asks its membership. It'll have a number of meetings, and it'll get all sorts of requests and demands for usually colossal pay increases, extra vacation time, and so on and so forth. Then the committee will sort of sit down and winnow those requests down to something relatively small, maybe 8 or 10 specific items that they might want to change in the current collective bargaining unit. Because what the process is a request to change the current collective bargaining situation. So what happens is that it's actually just word changes in specific items in the contract, in specific terms in the contract. And those requests are generated by the membership, and they're put together as a package. That package has to be sunshined by the union, and then the negotiations will start. Now, but inside the development of those contract requests, proposals, demands, or whatever you want to call them, there are internal politics, and that internal politics depends on the makeup of the bargaining unit. What sort of people are in the bargaining unit? If it's primarily younger people that are in the bargaining unit, there will be a tremendous emphasis on wages as the most important item to negotiate. Younger people want more money. If there's older people in it, older people tend to want non-taxable benefits. They'd like the health plan improved. They'd like a variety of tax-free benefits worked out, daycare, pre-tax dollars for daycare, and so forth. And if you have a bargaining unit that's heavily female, you're going to have, again, another different sort of set of demands revolving around daycare, for example, time off for dealing with children that have to be taken to a doctor, or education issues, and so forth. So the internal politics of the union is important in the construction of the bargaining demands. And it's not something that is kind of easy. You will have constant conflicts between these groups. Remember, a union is not a monolithic organization. It's a collection of groups of people that are in there, and they've got not necessarily completely separate interests, but they are different, and they compete over time. So that's an important thing to understand. So on the management side, you'll have a similar sort of setup. The head of personnel, it's the director of labor relations or the assistant director of personnel, will sit down with the political leadership, that is with the county board of supervisors or with the city council, and they'll thrash out, what can they do. They've got a divided mission too. They want to be in the situation of the city or the county or the special district being an attractive place to work, because they're thinking of the next employee. What do we have to do to make this an attractive county or an attractive city to work in? And one of the things will have to be pay, of course. So the management will want to make sure that the city or the county remains an attractive option for high-quality job applicants. At the same time, they're going to be under tremendous public pressure to maintain the budget, not to increase taxes, not to increase tax revenue. So you've got to try and manipulate these two somewhat opposing types of things. And the various cities operate in sort of identifiable patterns. For example, Riverside County is fairly well known as a low-paying county. It has a high turnover, and it's consistently lower paid than many of the other surrounding jurisdictions. A city like Pasadena, on the other hand, is a leader in terms of wages and working conditions, and it attracts a very, very different bunch of people, as you can imagine. So this internal politics and the internal processes on the management side and on the union side, you need to have some sort of understanding, and particularly the idea that a union is not monolithic, and that it represents a coalition of interests. When it actually comes to negotiation, the union will typically pick a bargaining team. They'll have maybe a professional negotiator, an experienced negotiator. They'll have some senior leadership, and they'll have some people that they want to train for future leadership positions. And it genuinely is a team. If the younger people on the team want to contribute and want to argue about issues, they can. They're encouraged to do so, and there's nothing odd about that. On the management side, it's very different. There's one negotiator. There may be 6 or 7 people at the actual bargaining, but there's only one person that counts, and that person is responsible back to the elected leadership of the city or the county or the special district. The rest of the people there are pretty much window dressing. So that's the internal operations of this issue. Now I'd like to move on to look at the external factors that are involved in this.